Hi there viewers and welcome to Revelation TV. You're watching a program called Get Well, Stay Well. My name is Cyrus and once again, as always, delighted to be joined by Felicity. How are you doing?
Hi there, Cyrus. I'm full of energy today. They say Beckham can bend it like Beckham. And on the golf course, I can bend the ball to the left and the right. We call it a draw and a fade in golfing terms.
Is that good now, Felicity? If you're bending the ball to...
That's really good.
Sometimes that's good, but maybe you actually hit the ball to the wrong course or something?
That's when you actually do it wrong and you slice it out to the right, or you really hit it left, and then you're in big trouble. You're in the trees or you're in a bunker.
As long as you're not in the bunker, Felicity, and you're just trying to whip it out and it's not coming, then that's fine, that's fine.
Yes, and you can't ground your club in the bunker, you know, in the sand. You can't touch the sand with the club when you're in there. So,
what's your handicap on the golf course?
I used to be single figures.
Oh, very good. Very good.
I worked really, really hard at it. It was great fun. And I was lady captain twice, so
wow.
I loved my sport. And of course, I still love it. I love being in the fresh air and the sunshine. I think it's really healthy, and we all need to do that. So I've just brought out my book called The Lady Captain's Log, which I wrote about 20 years ago, and it's all about the lady captain and all the things that happen in the club. It's really funny. So action-packed.
Excellent. What is today's subject, Felicity?
And today's subject is energy and pain relief also with these things that Beckham is using. I thought I'd really have a look at all this, and it's really interesting, these patches that are now being used by all the celebrity athletes.
I've actually seen them, some of the sportsmen wearing the patches. They're not actually endorsing the patches, but they're wearing them, aren't they? That's right,
they're wearing them because they work, and I was very intrigued because they come from San Diego, where I'd just been, and I discovered that one of the women doctors who I work with down here, she's Danish, but she's working in Spain, and she's been using them for years. And so I got them from her, and lo and behold, they are amazing. And they can take pain away, and they can also strengthen the body, energize the body. They're good for people who've got fatigue. So yeah, I mean, it's a new medical breakthrough, and they're classed as A1 medical devices now and accepted in 100 different countries in the world. So it is interesting to see these top athletes wearing them.
Okay, that's a nice introduction to our first clip that we have for you today. It's called Energy by Patches. Let's take a look.
Nanotechnology is the way of the future.
A way of wirelessly transmitting information into the human body using organic electronic components. You can put the patches on the human body, you can see an effect.
Soccer player David Beckham is arguably the most recognized athlete in the world, and even he's wearing the patches. The world's windsurfing champion clearly wearing the patches on his knees. Sean May wearing the patches when he was the MVP for the NCAA champions. Here's a national champion weightlifter using the patches. Esquire magazine ranked them as Performance Enhancer of the Month. ESPN, the magazine, did an article on the LifeWave phenomenon.
You know, last night we showed you that even Pop wasn't quite sure just what those bandages are on Tim Duncan's chest, but our viewers knew the answer. They're called LifeWave Energy Patches, a revolutionary new medical discovery.
It's so new, so great, so wonderful. How do you measure it? There is an immediate autonomic nervous system response within 5 minutes, and that is powerful scientific information to offer.
I've been doing this kind of testing now for almost 8 years, and I can tell you, you don't see these kind of results in 1 or 2 weeks.
There are a lot of products out there, folks, but there are very few companies who support their products with quality science.
We tested the LifeWave product, and we found that it made a significant change within 10 seconds in the cytoskeleton. And let me tell you, that is profound.
So this is not so much a stimulant, as more of a way to balance the body and bring the body back into harmony.
That which seems extraordinary today will be commonplace in the future.
When I got them, I tested them. I took it for what they said on the phone call to me that they would work, and I absolutely tried them out, and they did.
This is a new technology. to provide people with energy, well-being, improved sleep, improved skin quality, relief of pain, relief of discomfort, and you just can't stop the truth.
Hi there, welcome back. Very, very interesting. It's something that hasn't been too exposed out in the industry or to us, not us as people, shall we say, out there. It's not something that you've heard about.
Well, you know, Psalm 139 says that God has fearfully and wonderfully made us. We have these amazing bodies with infinite intelligence from the design that God has created for us. And Western medicine has been slow to really realize the power of the immune system. You know, even 100 years ago, there weren't decent microscopes. They didn't know about DNA. They had no idea really how the body was really working, apart from sort of basic plumbing and cutting up cadavers and, you know, learning their science that way. But I think we've now got much more aware of how intelligent the human body is. And it's true that the light and the energy from these patches, when they come into contact with the electricity of the body, they don't put anything into the body, but it actually fires the immune system and the body itself to balance. And so I've just seen amazing things with people getting out of pain, you know, literally in 10 seconds. It's quite amazing, and I'm really, really fascinated with this, and it's working for building up energy, for fatigue, for insomnia, and for people with autoimmune disease, because this is something, as you know, we've done a lot of programs on that. A lot of people are just, you know, chronically fatigued, they're feeling under the weather, they have a variety of autoimmune diseases. And this is a way, with no drugs, with no needles, so there's no chemicals, there's no injections, there's no acupuncture, there's nothing like that. This is just natural energy working on the body.
And how long has this been around for, Felicity?
Well, this man, David Schmidt, is a scientist, and he was asked to develop something for the US forces and for the submariners who had to stay up 36 hours and be, you know, really on the ball. And he started discovering this nanotechnology. All this stuff is really interesting. It's been out since 2002, but it didn't come across my radar until I went to San Diego. So really interesting, and you know, my interest is to get people out of pain, to get people well again so that they can stay well naturally, not just with a drug that's going to have side effects and you know, painful injections and harmful therapies. This is something natural. I'm actually wearing one myself.
I was going to ask you, have you used one?
Yeah, I'm using them all the time. I mean, I'm so interested in it. So I've got, like Beckham, I've got them on the lungs here.
Yes.
You wear the white on the right, the tan on the left. It's like a battery. You know, you have to put the battery in the right way.
Yes.
Otherwise, it does the reverse. Well, this is how our amazing bodies have been made by God to have the energy. And I've got another one on here, which is a glutathione.
So do you always need to wear two patches at all times?
It depends what the patches are. There are different ones, and I think Beckham is wearing the energy ones, and he's got them on his lungs because obviously then he can run faster. People can use them all over the body. It's amazing how these you know, the energy flows through the body, as we know. And so, to me, it just brings me closer to God. You know, God has created us with all this intelligence. And at long last, we're beginning to really start to understand it. We'll never understand everything. But
so you've just mentioned the energy patches. What other patches are available?
Well, they have one called Silent Night that is for insomnia. And it's interesting because I tried that. I got down to only 4 hours sleep a night because I'm doing so much research and answering so many emails. And then I'm excited about what I'm doing in the morning, so I'm up, you know, sort of 6 in the morning. And I was only getting about 4 hours sleep some nights. And my son said, "Mum, you're going to burn yourself out doing this." So when I learned about the patches in San Diego, and I saw there was a Silent Night one, which is a natural way, you know, no drugs, none of these awful sleeping pills and things that make you feel ill and are addictive. So I thought, well, I'll just put a patch on and see if it works. Well, I woke up about 7 hours later feeling wonderful. The best night's sleep I'd had for ages. And so, yeah, I'm really interested. And of course, there's no drugs. They're not addictive. And you only have to do it for a couple of weeks, and then you get back in a sleep rhythm. Mm-hmm. You know, we've done programs about sleep, mm-hmm. and you have to get back into that rhythm. So I go to bed fairly early at night. I try to go about 10 o'clock now, you know, turn all the computers off, put my patch on, and I wake feeling amazing in the morning. So it does work.
So you just said you'd use it. Would you use the patches for a couple of weeks, and then once you're back to your routine, shall we say, you no longer need your patches?
I think it depends on the person. I think it just depends on the person. I'm reading a lot about it. I'm researching them at the moment, but I'm really impressed. And there's a lot of films and YouTubes out there about it. So it works. It doesn't harm the body in any way. It doesn't put any product into the body, although the patch is next to you. It's next to you because it fires the electricity just subcutaneously in the skin. And as we will find explained, you know, in the clips as we go through them. But it's a way of healing people, getting them well. It just addresses symptoms. They don't say that it can heal any disease. You know, you can't say that, but it can help symptoms. So if the symptom is exhaustion, and if people are not sleeping at night when they're ill, you know, if they're in pain, then their immune system obviously goes down. We have to have this sleep for the body to heal, because our body heals better at night. And of course now with the sophisticated technology, they can test these things. With thermography, they can actually test how the inflammation goes down. So if they put it on someone who's got pain in their back, and they have a thermography photograph of the pain, which shows up as red on the cells, and then it goes back to being quite calm within 10 seconds. Now that's pretty amazing.
Okay, well, let's take a look at our next clip. This is all about the patches and exactly how do they work.
Out of is the extent to which we pursue clinical research and conduct our clinical research. We've been doing this since 2002, and we have multiple double-blind, placebo-controlled studies using various diagnostic techniques to show that LifeWave is a legitimate phenomena. Some of the research studies that we have done include blood analysis, urine tests, capnometer tests which show increased levels of energy production from the body. We have done heart rate variability studies to show that the products are safe for the human heart. We have done tissue conductivity studies to show that these patches do in fact stimulate acupuncture points. We've also done medical infrared imaging studies to show the thermal effects of the patches. So the scientific proof that this is in fact legitimate is quite expansive.
Now with a report on pain management, here's our reporter, Laura Windsor.
As the development of LifeWave technology progressed, Medical Director Dr. Steve Haltiwanger explains how they have discovered applications in the management of pain.
What I've seen is that this technology can have very rapid and effective pain control. And what we're doing is we've learned that the body's skin is electrically sensitive. And so there are different points on the skin that are more conductive than others that are known as acupuncture points. And when we have tested the patches with electronic diagnostic equipment, we can find that putting patches in proximity to each other, close together, we see that we can actually measure a change in skin potential or skin conductance. Both of them change. So what we see is we immediately change, in a sense, the field of the area, the electrical properties of the area, and it's very rapid. And so by putting the patches on an area of pain, we can do this, and it's a very, very rapid form of application, and people can have very immediate responses. So if somebody has a sprained ankle in a football game, you literally can put patches on, and sometimes in 30 to 40 seconds, they notice that the pain is just diminished significantly, sometimes gone.
42 years ago, Don Collins was severely wounded in combat in Vietnam. After enduring countless surgeries, he lived the last 4 decades on painkillers. until he was exposed to this technology.
Within 3 minutes, I was from a 10 to a 1 with the patches. And being on drugs as long as I have every day for 42 years, I was taking morphine every 6 minutes. And all I had to do was push the button. Every hour on the hour, they bring in another cc of morphine. Every 2 hours, they bring in another morphine, and they would also bring in 3 Percocets. Nothing was even scratching the surface as far as the pain. LifeWave is the first thing in 42 years that has been able to stop the pain without a narcotic. And there's nothing that goes into the body. I mean, it's a miraculous. It's the most wonderful thing I've had in 42 years.
We all know that stresses and injuries are generally from activities, but unfortunately we see, even at the high performance level, there are stresses and injuries to muscular function that have nothing to do with their activity, but instead are created from an internalized emotion and distress, which then is expressed in the musculoskeletal system. The LifeWave patches, when applied correctly, will actually interrupt the internalization of that stress to the muscles, which then resets them. So the right application, you can actually reset a muscular complaint, a muscle weakness, if you will, back to normal with the simple application of the patches.
Hi there, welcome back. I thought it was interesting how he mentioned about the football game, or the modern game of, we're so used to the physio running on the pitch when the football player has an injury and they have this magic spray. Can we start to see if their football player has an injury, the doctor would come on the pitch and just place the patch on the leg or the ankle?
I'm quite sure, yes, because Beckham's using them. I mean, all these guys are. There are clips showing different sports, and everyone's using them. So yeah, they'd be a first aid kit. I carry them in my handbag now.
More interestingly, it's how quick it seems to be working. Within 30 seconds, it's the pain relief.
Within seconds. I mean, that war veteran who'd been in pain for 42 years, I thought that was amazing. For 42 years, he's been in agony. He's been on morphine. He's been on all these awful drugs. And, it worked instantly for him, despite his horrendous injuries. And, pain is so frightful. When I had pancreatic cancer, I was in absolute agony. And, it's the most wonderful thing to get someone out of pain. And normally it's done with morphine or heroin or one of these really nasty drugs with side effects. So to find something like this, which is natural, and I think it's incredible technology.
Explain to us about, they mentioned on the clip there that our body is electronically sensitive, our body skin is electronically sensitive. Explain to us.
Well, that's something that they've only just been able to realize with modern technology. They didn't know all this stuff before. And as I said, DNA hadn't even been talked about 30 years ago. They started talking about DNA. And as Dr. Richard Kent says, the complexity of the way the eye works is quite incredible. And although doctors can operate and they get to know quite a lot about the structure of the eye, it is God's infinite intelligence that has created life as it is, our bodies as it is. And so I think we have to come in all humility and turn away from the sort of arrogance of, we know how to do it all, we don't know how to do it all. The spiritual side, the mental side of healing is huge on the body. You give someone good news and they're suddenly energized. You give someone bad news and they shrink down. So I just think it's exciting, but there's lots of different modalities out there, and I get really excited as a researcher for 25 years when I find something new that is really working. And now it's done power trials for so long, and I've given it power trials. They test against the placebo effect, because obviously if you give someone something and say this will take away the pain, maybe they will in their minds take away the pain for themselves. So they do the double-blind placebo tests, and the doctor doesn't know if it's going to work or not, and the patient doesn't know if it's going to work or not. So, and they also do it on animals. And you can actually see the inflammation, say in a racehorse that's been damaged. You can see the inflammation before and after. Within seconds, the inflammation has gone down on this horse and it's able to move around again.
Just explain to our viewers and reiterate the importance of a positive mindset and a positive, our brain, the way that our brains work and how that can affect our whole body as a whole.
Well, it's like being born again, isn't it? You know, when we suddenly realize that, you know, Jesus is real, he really lived, he was crucified, he rose again, and we get born again in the Holy Spirit. We're transformed, and we don't feel the same way about day-to-day problems because we are above that. And you know, the mind and the spiritual side is really important. That's why I teach in my courses the mental detox, the spiritual detox. You know, people have to detox from anything they've been contaminated with, and anything, you know, fear, rejection, grief, whatever it is. These things can have a great effect on the body. You know, people with arthritis, for instance, very often had a lot of emotional stress. And we're living in a very fast-moving 21st century with pollution, with toxicity, with huge amounts of stress in people's jobs, especially with the computers, with mobile phones, where, you know, you're never away from the mobile phone. You know, you've got it sitting right there in front of you, Si, and you know, people want instant answers to everything. Whereas a few generations ago, you know, there'd be a letter that would be sent in the post.
Or the pigeon.
Or we're going back, the pigeon, yeah. So we're living in a very toxic environment.
Yeah, I think people are put under more pressure because of the mobile phone and because it's instant messaging, the emails, and they know you see the message immediately, and therefore people are put under a lot more pressure now, shall we say, compared to, say, 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Oh yes, absolutely. And you know, these things become addictive. You know, I've got my mobile phone beside me. In fact, I've got two of them. I've got an international one, I've got a local one, I've got the computer, and you know, it's the sort of first thing in the morning that you go to. Well, I read my Bible, actually, which really calms me down and centers me. But you know, most people, the first thing they do is see if there are any messages in the night.
Yes, exactly. just briefly, as we're talking about mobile phones, tell our viewers how important it is that we don't sleep next to our mobile phones, especially children as well, because I've become into a habit now that when I go to lounge,
good.
Rather than in the bedroom.
Away. Exactly. Because some of these kids are sleeping with it under their pillow, you know, in case somebody wants to text them in the night. I mean, it's unbelievable. And again, with the thermography I've just been talking about, they can now see how these waves go right into the brain, especially little children. They go right in from one ear, obviously go right in halfway into the brain, and they are frying this child's brain like putting them in a microwave. So yeah, it's new. A lot of money is made out of the mobile phones, obviously. Now I'm going to have the mobile phone manufacturers after me as well. And I use one. You know, we all use them for convenience, but the thing is to keep children away from them and to turn it off whenever you can, you know, at night. I mean, there comes a time when I just silence it, turn it off, and put it to charge in another room, and try to turn the computer off. And, you know, we're getting a lot of electromagnetic radiation from everything around us, the TV as well.
Okay, well, let's take a look at our next clip. This is talking about the electromagnetic radiation, but it's also a continuation with the patches. You've got the energy, the sleep, and you've also got the muscle patch. Let's take a look.
One of the best things about the LifeWave patch technology is that it's easily demonstratable. You can show somebody a personal experience within just 2 or 3 minutes where they're left scratching their head going, how could this possibly work? But they know that something is happening. And one of the easy tests you can do is called a muscle test. And this is a well-known phenomenon. If you've ever been to a chiropractor, it's called applied kinesiology. There are a lot of different uses for it. But what you first want to ask the person if they have any shoulder problems. Do you have any shoulder problems on your right or left side? If they have a problem with one side, test the other side. Okay, what I'd like you to do is just put your right arm out straight and I'm going to put one, usually you want to put one hand on the other shoulder, and I'm just going to give you some pressure down. You're going to resist. I'm going to count to 3, okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and you're not trying to do a strength test. You're just trying to see where the resistance happens. There's kind of a bounce there, and you want to get a feel for that. Then what you can do is you can grab a cell phone. And this is kind of a neat demonstration. What I'd like you to do with your left hand there is put that to the middle of your chest, and then put your arm out again like you did before. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And he just has no strength. I mean, you can see he's a strong guy, but the cell phone actually breaks the bioenergetic field of the body. The electromagnetic field of the cell phone affects our body's energetic field. And this is a great demonstration to show people that your body can be affected by something without anything going in the body, because that's actually what the patches do. Now, a neat demonstration of how the patches can help support the body is you can actually take the tan patch and put that against the cell phone and put the white patch against the middle of your chest and do the same test. 1, 2, 3. And now I can't budge him. I mean, and the personal experience that they feel, I mean, Jim's done this before. He's actually my sponsor in the business, so he's seen it. But when you do it to somebody for the first time, they are absolutely amazed. Now, there are a couple different tests you can do. You can also test somebody. Please put the white patch in your right hand and the tan patch in your left. Do it again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now switch them. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And what I did is, you're supposed to always have the white patch on your right and the tan patch on your left. Well, in the first test, that's what I did, and he was stronger. In the second test, I switched it, so it actually switched his bioenergetic field, and he just had no strength at all. And you can tell, he's a strong guy, but it just shows how the patches affect your body that quickly. This one we call the tip test. What I'd like you to do, Jim, is just stand down with your feet completely together. I want you to lock your elbow, lock your shoulder. Do you have any shoulder problems? Okay, lock your shoulder, make a fist. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some pressure up, okay, and I'm just going to knock you off balance. Okay, you see how easy that was? Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the tan patch, I'm going to put it on top of his left shoe. I'm going to take the white patch and put it on top of his right shoe. Just do the exact same thing. Lock your shoulder, lock your arm. And I literally cannot budge him. I was putting about 4 times the effort. And what happens is his bioenergetic field becomes grounded with the patches. If you could just stand with your finger right in front, and I want you to twist, keep your feet exactly the same, and just twist your body around to see how far you can go. Okay? Come on back. Now I want you to put the white patch in your right hand and the tan patch in your left hand, and just do the exact same thing. So you were able to go about 20% more. And that's a great demonstration for golfers because they understand their flexibility and range of motions will be that much more increased. Okay, one of the fun tests you can do is called the push test. Now, Jim works out all the time. He weighs 207. I weigh $170 dripping wet. So he's got a lot more strength than I do. But let's go get in a football stance. I'm going to try to push you back. You try to keep me from pushing you back. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I can't move him because, he works out a lot more than I do. But with the power of the patch, it gets kind of fun. So I'm going to take the white patch, I'm going to put it in my right hand, and I'm going to take the tan patch and put it on my left hand. Now what this does, I'm going to put it on his lung points. But my left hand is on his right lung point. So I'm actually strengthening myself and weakening him. So go ahead and do the same thing. Ready? 1, 2, 3. That pisses you off, huh? And I can throw him back like a rag doll because of the power of the patch. And it's such a great demonstration you can do with football teams or with an older brother and a younger brother. And once people test this out, they just have a blast. You can have a party with this. Invite people over, do the tip test, do the push test. It is a fun demonstration to do. The great thing about the demonstrations is people have a hard time believing the power of the patches until they actually feel it. So if you do the tip test like I showed you, and the twist test, and the muscle test, and the push test, by the end of that, people are going, something is happening here. I don't quite understand it, but something is happening. And have fun with it. I've had such a good time having like a younger brother finally able to push his older brother backwards, and testing it with football teams and other athletes. And they're just amazed at what these patches can do almost instantaneously. And once you show people the power of the patches, they become believers. And the whole thing is to get people to understand the power of this technology and how it can impact their life in a positive way.
Hi there, welcome back. Very interesting clip. There's a lot of fun there watching that. But something that I was going to ask is, people tend to become passionate about their health when they've been told some bad news, like say you've got cancer or something? I mean, how important is it that we do this preventative techniques and prevent any diseases and any cancer coming?
Well, you know, disease is the wake-up call, isn't it? You know, even when we have a headache, it's a wake-up call. The body's saying, stop doing this, you know, you're hurting me, you're exhausting me. So we have to really take notice. And I think we've all been sort of British stiff upper lip, and we've, you know, struggled on through everything. But the body's actually telling you, you do need to rest, you do need to you need to respect this wonderful body that, you know, God has given us for our journey here on earth. So we ought to be on the right diet, you know, going back to the Genesis diet again that I'm always talking about. We have to put everything together. And when we do, and we take the exercise, and you know, we really we restore the immune system to the abundant health that we're supposed to have.
Just explain to us about some of the items that we've just seen on that clip there, how he did those techniques and how they worked.
Well, they really work, and we were doing it, this doctor friend and I were doing this with a group of triathletes the other day. And, you know, these guys were really sort of macho, and they were both trying to be the top one. And so they really were pushing each other. And it was amazing that when you put the patches, which are like batteries, on the right positive and negative, there was one guy who would absolutely flatten the other guy, and vice versa when they turned it round. So, I mean, it's like a battery. You understand about batteries. And you've got to put them on the right side, you've got to put them in the right place, and then they work. So our bodies are really, we've got this electrical energy that, you know, Western medicine hasn't really gone into yet. But, you know, the Eastern medicine, they've always thought about this. I think 1 billion people in the world are using energy medicine because they don't have the drugs and they don't have the injections and other things that we've had in the West. So I think we've got a little complacent and thought that, you know, doctors were the great gods who are going to heal us, and we've got to come back to realizing we're entirely dependent on our God, our Creator God, and the energy that He's given us, and that everything we read in the Bible is absolutely right. And when we come back to you know, putting our lives back as they should be, then we do heal, we get well, we stay well in body, mind and spirit.
Now we're going to go on to glutathione. Explain to us, what is glutathione?
Well, it's an antioxidant, and we have plenty of it in our bodies when we're young. When we get to about 40, we start to wear out the glutathione, and the problem is that we then get inflammation. So we get inflammation in the body, which can turn into any kind of disease. For instance, it might be the arthritis, you know, inflammation in the joints. But certainly inflammation in the arteries, for instance, is going to lead to heart disease. So we have to really address the lack of glutathione that we've got. And you can take glutathione supplements, but also the patches, they learn how to put the patches on in a certain way that re-stimulate the glutathione in our bodies. So that's very clever. This is completely natural.
Okay, well, let's take a look at our clip next. This is talking about the glutathione.
It's estimated that this year, cancer will become the leading killer in this country. So if your doctor said to you, do this and you may lower your risk for cancer, wouldn't you just listen and do it? Well, today we're talking with a familiar face who listens and passionately lives by some groundbreaking protocols. And today she is sharing that health information with us. Here now from Calabasas, California is author and actress Suzanne Summers. Suzanne, welcome back to The Balancing Act. We always love having you on the show.
And I always love speaking with you.
Now, you've really made it a personal mission to educate yourself and the public about what's considered cutting-edge care to prevent cancer and to stay healthy. So tell us why this is important to you.
It's interesting. I don't think something like this is something that you choose yourself. I think it chooses you. And I became involved in health because of circumstances that happened in my life, probably starting 10 years ago with a breast cancer diagnosis. And I knew at that time that balanced hormones prevents disease. So when I wouldn't give up my bioidentical hormones, and when I refused chemotherapy, I was told at that time, well, you're going to die. And I said, I don't think so. I'm going to eat from here on in like my life depends on it, and I'm going to keep my hormones so balanced so that they become protective in me, and that's what I've done over the last 10 years.
Wow. Now, there was a recent Washington Post report on the president's cancer panel that says that Americans face, and this is a quote, grievous harm from chemicals in the air, food, and water that have largely gone unregulated and ignored. What surprised you the most about this?
I have it right here. I've read it, and it says, reducing environmental cancer risk, what we can do now. And this is 240 pages that anybody can Google and read. And what this report says, in essence, is we are getting cancer from the chemicals. It is from what we're eating, it's the poisons on our food, it's the chemicals in our cosmetics, it's the radiation exposure, cell phones, electronics that we don't have any protection from them. It's from imbalanced hormones, it's from toxins in our household.
Now, doctors have told you there are 5 things anyone can do to reduce the risk of cancer. What are those 5 things?
We know we can clean up our house. We can, use green detergents and household cleaners. We can choose organic food. We can balance our hormones with bioidentical hormones, and I've written several books on the subject if you want to know about it, which will then manage your stress and allow you to sleep, because without balanced hormones you can't sleep. Those 5 things I just mentioned right now are all cancer protective genetic switches we have in our body that get turned off by poor food, chemicals, lack of sleep, not managing stress, and imbalanced hormones. But we have in our system a natural detoxification system.
Hi there, welcome back. My question is, why do we need to balance our hormones?
Well, everybody does, and both the men and the women, because it's the women who are usually told if they're a bit grumpy, their hormones are unbalanced. That's very unkind to the girls.
I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to get in trouble. No comment.
Girls have more complications in their lives than the guys do, and so I think it is really important to balance the hormones, and using the glutathione, Suzanne Summers has written books about it. She also had cancer like I did some years ago. She had breast cancer really badly, and she got well naturally. So we're very much on the same page, and I've met her in America. Really interesting, and she's an ambassador for LifeWave. So that was another thing that made me interested. And so she's done a lot of research on the toxicity. As she said, there's the president's report that said, we're all going to be dying of cancer because of the toxicity. And so she suggests, using the green detergents and cleaning up our houses, getting just organic food when we can, always having organic or growing our own, as we've done programs on that. And we need to sleep. We need to do everything we can to try and keep well and keep our families and our children and our grandchildren well in this really toxic environment that we're living in. So it's not just electromagnetic radiation, it's the toxicity from the food, the fizzy drinks, which of course are all over the papers, we're reading about that, the sugar, the wrong sugars, because of course there's good sugars and bad sugars, and we need a certain amount of good sugar to build the ATP, the adenotriphosphate in the body, which gives us energy.
What about the chemicals that are in the air and the water?
Well, it's really difficult to avoid those, especially if you live in a town. And here in Spain we're very, very fortunate, and in Portugal where I was living, very fortunate, because the air is coming in off the Atlantic, and here in Spain it's coming in off the sea and the Med, which is not quite as pure as the Atlantic, obviously, but when we're living in the country, when we're breathing the oxygen from the trees, which is why it's good to have plants in the house, as we know, that helps clean the air. We have to really think about all these things and have some plants, especially if you're living in a town. And that's why some of the doctors I work with say that everyone who lives in a town should be doing a colonic at least once a day, man, woman, and child, because we are picking up so much toxicity. Even the little children are picking it up, you know, as they're walking to school through the smog or through the, you know, all the rubbish coming out of the cars. You know, if you're walking along a street in London, I remember pushing the pram with my 3 children, you know, and walking through this sort of, you could actually see the haze of smog walking along in Kensington. It was really scary. And then you get to the park, which was the reason you took the children in the pram for in the first place. And we used to go to the Serpentine and feed the ducks and things like that. And, you know, you would realize that the air had cleared because you've got this great lung of the green trees around you. But when you're walking down a street, or in London where I'm going to be next month, you know, you almost have to put a scarf over. And I think if you've been ill, as I have, then you're more susceptible to it, obviously. When you're young and you're racing around, as you are, Si, you're probably not so aware of it. But as you get older, if you, you know, have a breathing problem, then you're very sensitive to pollution.
And what about sleep? How important is it that we get the right amount of sleep per night?
Well, it is important, and I've just proved that by, you know, changing and trying these wonderful patches. I don't have to use them every night now. I say they're not addictive, but you get back into a sleep pattern, which is great, because you know, we are creatures of habit. We get into this way of working until the last minute. I'm sure you do the same as well.
Yeah.
You're working, you're on that computer, you're on that phone until you literally your eyes close. And then the first thing you do in the morning is look at the phone. So, you know, we are living in a perfect storm.
I mean, I see us, we're living in Spain, and my wife is Spanish. I look at her family, I look at all the other Spanish people, the Mediterranean. They have a very healthy culture. They eat very well. But now we're talking about food, we're talking about sleep, we're talking about siesta. They do it in the right way. In the middle of the afternoon, they stop working, they close the business, and they have their lunch, and then they have about half an hour to an hour sleep in the afternoon.
Well, it's very hot at that time, isn't it? So, yes, and I know, and when I was pregnant, I used to have a rest in the afternoon, and that was thought to be quite good for the body. But of course, if you're working now and you're pregnant, you can't afford to have a siesta, can you? Or do they have a siesta for everybody here? The lawyers, like your wife?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
So what does she do for the siesta? Does she come home and have a rest?
Well, basically depends. Some of the companies open earlier in the morning, so they can be open from 8 o'clock in the morning, shall we say, and then they close at 3 o'clock, and that's their day. Or some open at 10, they open till 2 o'clock, then they reopen again at 5 o'clock, and they close at about 8 or 9 o'clock.
But if you've got to drive home to have a rest, that would be...
Yes,
it wouldn't work, would it?
Yes, of course.
No,
yeah,
no.
Yeah.
I think the great thing is to get your sleep at night, because the problem with having a siesta is maybe you're not so desperate to go to sleep in the night time.
It depends if you've had a fiesta before.
And you know, we have this body clock where we're supposed to go to sleep as it gets dark, because that's natural, and the melatonin builds up in the body. And so I think if you have too much siesta, maybe you're not sleeping at night when you're supposed to. Because remember, the digestive fires are working more at lunchtime. You're supposed to have had this big lunch. Now maybe they have a big lunch and that's why they have to sleep it off.
Now we've got a clip coming up with Mark Hyman.
Right.
We've played a number of clips with Mark. Just explain to our viewers, who is Mark Hyman?
Well, he's a very interesting doctor who's right into this, and he suffered from chronic fatigue himself at one stage. He worked himself into the ground. So then he started getting really interested in his patients who were also trying to get well, and discovered a lot of interesting stuff that is not drug and chemical based, but more on natural things. So he's a great advocate.
Okay, well, let's take a look at Mark Hyman. He's talking about glutathione.
What is the most important molecule that you need to stay healthy and prevent disease? Hi, this is Dr. Mark Hyman. Welcome back. Now, why have most of you never heard about this? And why is it the secret to prevent aging, cancer, heart disease, dementia, and more? And why is it necessary to treat everything from autism to Alzheimer's? And why are there over 76,000 medical articles about it, and your doctor doesn't know how to address the epidemic deficiency of this critical, life-giving molecule? What is it? It's the mother of all antioxidants, the master detoxifier, and the maestro of the immune system. It's called glutathione. The good news is your body produces its own glutathione. The bad news is that our poor diet, pollution, toxins, medications, stress, trauma, aging, infections, and radiation all deplete your body's glutathione levels. And this leaves you susceptible to unrestrained cell disintegration from oxidative stress and free radicals, to infections and cancer, and your liver gets overloaded, making it damaged and unable to do its job of detoxification. So, in treating chronically ill patients using functional medicine over the last 10 years, I have found that glutathione deficiency is found in nearly all of my very ill patients. Those who have chronic fatigue, heart disease, cancer, chronic infections, autoimmune diseases, diabetes, autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, arthritis, asthma, kidney problems, liver disease, you name it. If you're very sick, you likely have a glutathione deficiency. Now, at first I thought this was just coincidental when I saw this, but over the years I've come to realize that our ability to produce and maintain a high level of this glutathione molecule in our bodies is critical to recovery from nearly all chronic illness, and to prevent disease, and to maintain optimal health and performance. And so have the authors of the 76,000 medical articles on glutathione. Okay, so what's glutathione? What does it do for us? And how can we get more of it? Well, glutathione is a very simple molecule that's produced naturally all the time in your body. It's a combination of 3 simple building blocks we call amino acids: cysteine, glycine, and glutamate. The secret of its power is the sulfur chemicals it contains. Sulfur is a very sticky, smelly molecule. It sort of acts like flypaper, and all the bad things in the body stick onto it. Free radicals and toxins like mercury and other heavy metals. Normally, it's recycled in the body, except when the toxic load becomes too high, and that explains why we're in such trouble. In my practice, I test for the genes involved in glutathione metabolism, genes involved in producing the enzymes that allow the body to produce and recycle the glutathione. I have lots of names, GSTM1 and GSTP1 and so on. The fact is that we all evolved in a time before there were 80,000 toxic industrial chemicals that were introduced into our world, before electromagnetic radiation was everywhere, before we polluted our lakes and rivers and skies and oceans and teeth with dental amalgams and with mercury and
him.
Okay. Hi there, viewers, and welcome back. Talk to me about glutathione deficiency.
Well, that starts up inflammation in the body, and as I said, when we're over 40, we start to lose the glutathione, the natural glutathione, like we do with the trypsin and the chymotrypsin. So, the body has got us well, really, for breeding, to have the next generation, and after that, we ease off with these good things in the body. So we have to perhaps take more care of ourselves and start rebuilding the body with the natural things. So glutathione is a great thing to be able to use.
Now, talk to me about the importance. Now, we're looking to look after ourselves, looking after our body, looking after our health, and it comes as a package. It's a lifestyle change that we're trying to do, really, isn't it?
That's right. It's the nutrition, the exercise, the fresh water, the sunshine, the air. It's putting everything together, and rest and relaxation and trust in God, of course.
So let's go through this. Obviously, we need to look after what we're eating and take care of what we shouldn't be eating as well. Number one, what is the foods that we need to remove from our diet?
We need to get rid of the trans fats, which are the much marketed new fats that were produced about 20, 30 years ago. Because they've clogged up the body, they're only one molecule away from plastic, so of course they're blocking. And we have to come back to the right fats, which are avocado and coconut oil and olive oil, which is really lovely. And then with the sugars, we have to come away from the processed sugars, go back to the natural ones.
Because there are good sugars and there are bad sugars, aren't there?
Absolutely. Good and bad with sugars and fats and salts. So, you know, the salt that we got out of the salt cellar was really quite a poison, whereas the Himalayan rock salt was really healthy. So, and you know, if you swim in the salty sea, it's really good for the whole body. So, you know, when we were in Israel, of course, you go and swim in the Dead Sea, and you can actually float because the minerals are so strong there that you can actually, you just lay there and you float. And the magnesium oil that you can get, which is made from the Dead Sea salts, is really good as well.
What about the coconut oil? Now, coconut oil has so much different, it's multi-purpose, isn't it?
Well, that's absolutely brilliant, yes, and I use that all over the body. I think it's great. People can cook with it as well. There's coconut milk. You know, it's a thing that nature has provided for us, and I just put something on Facebook about the Philippines, and Monsanto have gone in there and they're starting to use chemicals that are destroying the coconut trees. So I put a clip on Twitter and I said, hands off our coconuts. So that's caused some amusement. But it's really important to see that, you know, the chemical companies are actually destroying the good things that God has provided for us, and we literally cannot afford to do this.
What about the cosmetics, like the creams and the makeups out there? I mean, are they dangerous?
Well, Si, you've got to read the labels, and you'd be absolutely horrified to see the stuff that's in there, the chemicals. And they're tested on animals as well, which is very cruel. I just use the coconut oil, I use walnut oil. There's wonderful oils that you can use for the skin. And of course the suntan creams that we've all been told to use, and which I used to use. You know, that's, if you just, as I say, read the labels.
What should our viewers be looking out for when they're reading the labels on the makeup, the cosmetics, sun cream?
Well, basically you look for any word that you can't pronounce. And if it's got a word you can't pronounce, you know you shouldn't be putting it on your body. You shouldn't be eating it, drinking it, or putting it on the body, because the skin is a huge organ in the body, and what we put on our skin gets absorbed straight in, which is why you know, they use magnesium on people who've had a heart attack. They put magnesium oil on them, as well as the other things that they do in the emergency room. But it's a way of quickly getting magnesium into people, and we're all short of magnesium.
Now let's move on to the right foods that we need to be eating, and the raw foods, how important is
well, magnesium, there we go. The green vegetables, you know, the green vegetables and the green leafy things, there are salads. And if people don't like eating salads, because some people do not, or they find it difficult to digest salads, then I suggest they blend them. They put them in a blender and literally blend your salad. So you've got lettuce, you've got tomatoes and cucumbers and radishes and anything else you can find, and just blend them up. They taste really nice, and so you drink your salads.
Okay, well, we're coming towards the end. We've got about a minute and a half. Just give us your final thoughts and just a summary to our viewers, and what advice would you give to our viewers?
Well, we started about energy, didn't we, and the athletes who are using the energy patches that are really revolutionizing health care, because some of them can stop pain as well, which I'm absolutely thrilled to have found. And this is natural and has no needles, it has no drugs, so that was interesting, and we see Beckham and a whole lot of well-known athletes using that. Then we moved on to glutathione, because Suzanne Summers, who's had cancer as well and got herself well naturally, she's an actress and an author, written a lot of books. And we think along the same line, so it's coming back to the natural ways.
Okay, Felicity, well, we have reached towards the end of today's programme, so thank you indeed for joining us today. Also, thank you to our viewers for joining us. We have covered a number of videos on today's show, so remember that Revelation TV, we do have a catch-up service. It's on our website. It's www.revelationtv.com. We're on YouTube. It's youtube.com/RTVEurope. We're on Twitter, twitter.com/RevelationTV. We're also on Twitter, #GetWellStayWell. So until next time, viewers, thank you so much. Look after yourself, eat the right foods, do the right exercise, and look forward to seeing you same time next time on Revelation TV. God bless. Bye.